Hello and welcome everyone to Smart Company, the podcast. I'm your host, Dave Doerre, and of course, as always, I'm joined by our tech expert, Grace Schroeder. Today, we're honored to have Dave Williams, founder and CEO of Zuma Internet, a whole new kind of internet service. In fact, Dave, I believe you're positioning it as the anti-internet service. So that's very intriguing to say the least. First off, Dave, thanks so much for joining us today. And just to get started, what we like to do a little bit is to just hear a little bit about your journey and how you got here today.
Well, thanks so much for having me on. I'm excited to be here. And yes, it's been a heck of a journey. I spent the last 23 years of my career working for pretty large corporations, Comcast, Altis USA, in the cable space, and all in sales and marketing. Know the business really, really well. Had a fantastic career, and suddenly got this, maybe not suddenly, over a period of time, I got this bug in me that said there's something more that you can do. And so after spending a lot of time at the cable company, one thing that I became acutely aware of was that customers were frustrated. They were frustrated because they had pain points and the cable company wasn't listening to them. And as I thought about that, and I can give you some great stories in some of this, but as I thought about it, I said, there is an opportunity to solve those pain points for customers and create a brand that people actually love in this space. And so I'm on a journey to create a brand that people love. And it's been an interesting transition from being in corporate America my entire career to trying to figure out how to launch not a small business, but a large business by yourself. And you suddenly find out that network is really, really important, and getting people to help you and think through problems, etc. So it's been a great journey. But thanks for having me on.
Look, I am delighted to hear you say that, because we do work with some other telecom adjacent service organizations, and they're on the business side, and they're uniformly trying to bring it to the customer-centric view versus the company-centric view. And just by way of example, I spent 4 years at Quest Communications before I pulled the ripcord, and they've really designed it for themselves. So you're a big company, you just routinely need quotes for multiple locations. You just want to go get straight to the quote department. They're forcing you to talk to a salesperson. You're like, I don't want to talk to a salesperson. I get no value from a salesperson. I need a price and terms, that's it. And so read it. No, but that doesn't work for the phone company, because they need to be able to upsell you on their more expensive solution stuff. Well, listen, phone company, why don't you just find an automated way to do the transactional stuff to please your customers and spend the salespeople's calories on the things that actually need more communication? And they just don't seem to want to do it. Here I am 20 years after leaving, and the problems are the same.
It's too bad Grace doesn't actually have any opinions on the topic. That's the tragedy of the podcast so far. I'm sorry, I couldn't help. Dave, go ahead.
I'm angry now, Dave.
Yeah,
let's go.
I was going to say, when I looked at the problem, I said there are 3 pain points that I just hear from customers every single day, and the cable company wasn't responding. And those pain points were the network was slow and unreliable. When COVID happened, how important was it to have a fast network that actually was up and running? And it's still, that need is even more important today. So that was one. The pricing, it's the most archaic pricing structure I have ever seen in my life. What company in America, I'll just leave it in America. What company in America makes you call in every single year to haggle and get your price back down to where it was without giving you more service? Which is just insane to me. And then the customer experience in general is just so poor. And I tell people, if you have kids and they are misbehaving and you need to punish them, you should have them call the cable company, because there is nothing worse. You'll number one, it'll take you 20 minutes to get to someone that can that will answer that will attempt to answer the question. You will talk to them for 20 minutes, and then you will leave without the problem resolved.
Well, SNL has done some hilarious sketches. You may have seen one. Oh my gosh, but they do it because it is such a uniformly common plight on the human experience these days. So, with that in mind, what makes Zuma, internet personal, transparent, and fair that in ways that other providers aren't? Would you say?
It's when I looked at it, I started off and I said I have to solve those three problems. So how am I going to do that? And I tried to approach everything through the customer lens. Number one, if the customer wants reliable network, they want a fast network, the best technology for that is fiber. So I said, I've got to get fiber. I am a sales and marketing person. I am not a construction person. I am not going to build my own network. But there are now in the U.S. there now are open access networks that will allow you to lease their fiber to the home and resell it to the customer. So I said, number one, I've got to solve that problem and go get access to fiber. The second thing I said is we're going to get rid of this whole pricing fiasco that exists out there. And I'm trying to make things super easy, because let's face it, people are just buying internet service. It doesn't have to be complicated. So I created 3 speeds and 3 prices. And when you get a price from me, that's your price, period, forever. That is your price. And so it takes all of the friction out of that pricing conversation. No more calls to haggle for a lower price.
Threaten to leave.
Yeah. All of that work, all of that goes away. So that's number 2. And then I said customer experience. How do you fix that? And this is kind of at the heart of what I'm trying to do, and probably the most complicated piece, and the piece that I have to validate with consumers is I want to do customer experience and customer service in an all digital fashion. I have a theory, and I am one of these people, but just because I am doesn't mean everybody is. But I would much rather, if I can do it simply, if I can solve the problem in seconds on my phone, I would much rather be able to do that than to call, talk to someone, maybe have someone come out to my house that can't solve the problem, etc. So what I'm doing is taking all of the tools that have been built for technicians and for agents, simplifying them, making them intuitive, and putting them on a mobile app to put in the consumer's hands. And I say, now consumer, you've got the control in your hands versus the company dictating how you're going to be serviced. And so we'll see. We're going to do some early tests to see if that really drives a much higher customer experience level. And I know when you talk to customers, they right away get afraid when they say, what do you mean I'm going to do it myself? But it's all in how you build these tools and deploy them. So that's a big focus for Zuma Internet.
Yeah, like, hey, I'm having a problem here. Great. Take a video of, let me see which router lights are blinking. Okay, this is what your problem is. Reboot.
Yeah, one of the examples is not really on the service repair side, but a simple one is when you go to almost any internet company's website and they'll have multiple packages, there will be something that says the customer will ask, which package should I select? And there will be some kind of text or something in there that says, well, based on, how many devices do you have? Based on the number of devices that you have, you should pick this package over that package. I'm like, why can't we, if they're on their phone, send them a link or have them tap a button, and it looks at everything that's in their home, and it can use some algorithms to say, I know based on everything that's connected what your usage is right now, and probably what it's going to be through the day based on what types of devices you have connected there. And I'll tell you very specifically exactly which package you should have. So it's things like that where you can use technology to solve problems that right now are very loosely defined or built in favor of the internet provider rather than the customer.
Yeah. So I know what you're talking about. My internet provider, you can tell when they've sort of outsourced it, and then they have to run you through this playbook of things. And I'm like, you know what? I've already run through this playbook. They don't care. They still have to run you through their playbook. Like, look, I'm not stupid. I know how the internet works, and
Yeah.
still you just can't get out. So then you're just like dutifully doing what they tell you to do, and maybe it works and maybe it doesn't. But we're doing some interesting things with support in our company. So we get a lot of customer support inquiries, tickets, whatever. So we're now using AI to vector those on incoming, and so that way now we can magically say, you know what, this the last 5 times this happened, these are the resolutions, and we can send that out as soon as the customer sends that in. They get a thing back saying, hey, it could be these we're looking at this. In the meantime, it could be these 5 things. Same thing on the support side. The support person go, yeah, the last 5 times we saw this is what we needed to do. And all of this is in the land of the possible now. But retooling some of these large companies is not in the land of the possible.
Exactly. It's yes. If you call in for repair, you almost can't even talk to anybody until they say you have to reboot your modem. Okay, I've done that 17 times. I've
Yeah.
learned over the last 20 years to
Yeah.
reboot my modem. I got that piece
Can I
down.
tell you how old I
Why?
am?
Yeah. Why can't I? If you call in, or if in my case, if you go to our app and say I need help, why can't I run a diagnostic right away? And I know exactly what's been going on in your network, both on the fiber coming into the house and your Wi-Fi network. Why can't I automatically run through 7 steps of troubleshooting through an AI kind of algorithm and already do that for you even before we even start to have a conversation? Because I can probably tell you what is wrong.
Well, and the very cool thing too is since you don't have a lot of overhead, you're doing what their Celex did very successfully. You're riding on other people's infrastructure, and you have access to better automation, and you can do it faster than a large company. It's a huge recipe for success. I can completely see why you're doing this.
Yeah,
So go ahead.
I was just going to say, I don't think this business would have been possible 2 years ago. The access to the network wasn't really available. You had to build it yourself, and then the tools and technology, to your point, Grace, just weren't there. And so now that exists, and for a company like Zuma to be able to start up and fix customer problems in a new way is exciting. Sorry, Dave.
No, I think actually my dog is doing a squeak toy now. Hold on just one second. And this will let it. This is where you're glad not to have a satellite truck.
I understand. I have 2 large dogs, and it makes it very difficult sometimes for conference calls because they tend to be very loud and will only play under my desk. That's the only place they can play when I'm working.
Well, and then of course, they don't play with a squeak toy all day long. The minute you get on a podcast, boy, that squeak toy just looks so good.
Exactly.
How are you looking to launch this, David? Are you looking at a particular city or geography or?
We've got we're going to take it in a couple of steps. We've got a couple of small city-run open access networks that we're going to start with to do our pilots and get some learnings and have these customers actually be a part of our kind of beta test program. And they'll help us refine our tools and technology and be our eyes and ears for the consumer. And so we'll do that. We're hoping to get into our first market with what I call my mini MVP product. So maybe not even full MVP, but we'll get in market by the end of the year. And then over kind of fourth quarter and first quarter, we're building out an AI native digital platform that will enable us to do everything that we want to do with really a lot of focus on the UX interface so that you can do customers can do things on their phone that they need to do. We're going to spend fourth quarter and a little bit of first quarter building that, and we'll roll that out. And as we do that, we'll start to expand into a couple of other markets. And as soon as we can validate the fact that we can do this all digitally and there's confidence there, then we are going to scale as fast as we possibly can. One of the amazing things about what we are trying to build and what is so amazing in today's age with technology is if we can prove this out, we don't have to have call centers. I don't own my networks. I don't have to have technicians. So I can scale this business as fast as I possibly can. And so it really will come down to how quickly can how much money do we need to actually generate new customers, because there is a cost to bring new customers on board. And so we're looking to scale really quickly after we prove out the concept. And so getting access to more and more fiber is going to be the critical piece there.
Can I ask you a business tactical question? Are you now falling under telecom regulation? Are you regulated, or are you not a telecom?
The internet is relatively unregulated.
Okay, so if
It's
you're
not like
internet only.
Yeah, the traditional cable TV is highly regulated. Mobile service may be a little bit more regulated, but but internet is very unregulated, and so the ability to move into different markets quickly is super easy. Even to move globally, and I look at that as our long-term expansion opportunity. Canada, for instance, there's about 16 million households in Canada. About 12 million of them today are served by fiber, which is pretty impressive. They just mandated a few weeks ago that their fiber providers must open up their networks to other providers. So I have the opportunity to and have access, or can have access pretty easily, to 12 million homes to provide this service. And if I don't have to scale up call centers and technicians and those kinds of things, but really just leverage a digital platform, it gives me an ability to move there, to move to Europe, etc.
Yeah, it makes so much sense. It's really similar to the conversation I'm having with this other client about, let's just automate the stuff that should be automated, and it's the pipes. Nobody needs a consultative sales process around a pipe. Like, we're
Exactly.
not stupid.
Yes.
So that's
And one of the things I have tried to do is to simplify my business so that I can scale it. And I've been um, very much focused on the value segment, the customer that just wants access to broadband service that works. And they don't need all of the extras, or they will go find their own streaming providers. They'll find their own mobile provider. They don't need someone to bundle it all together for them. That allows me to make this simple. It's also very important when I think of competition. I go after that value segment. Let AT&T, T-Mobile, Comcast, everybody else can fight for that premium customer.
yeah.
40% of the market fits my segment, and that's plenty for me to go after.
Well, yeah, and like I'm a internet only person. I don't, who needs a triple play? And so that's 100% what I am a buyer of. I just want good, fast, solid internet. And the really other tricky point is, though, the thing I used to hate about the cable providers is the ugly box. The ugly box. It was a crime. You're forced to keep this thing in your house, and that they're so ugly because they're just cheap. And so now, the internet providers are putting out nice, compact, beautiful little routers, and you don't have to have this scar, this tactical scar, that you're trying to
Yes.
hide in your living room.
They designed the absolute ugliest cable boxes that you could possibly imagine. And to your point, they did it for one reason and one reason only, because it was cheap. And you
Yes.
had an opportunity, and you saw that with companies like Google and Amazon, that you can take those types of products and make them look modern, make them look cool, and people all of a sudden become proud to put it in their house
Right.
and show it
Eero.
off.
Oh, I like the
Yeah,
Eeros. I've got a
yeah,
couple, I've
yeah,
got an apartment in Argentina. I put Eeros in there, and it's like, you can handle it on your phone. It's inexcusable that we had to suffer for as long as we did.
Well, and you know what's interesting, and what I learned, and this became a big part of why I got into this. Is you think about those 3 pain points that we talked about. Those 3 pain points existed with, you can talk about whether it was you can say the network, either the internet network, or you could even go back in time and say that the cable network and how it was unreliable, etc. But you really learn a lesson in terms of, if a company ignores pain points for decades, the brand trust just erodes to almost zero. And I've seen plenty of brand trust and consideration reports from the cable companies that are pretty close to zero. And when that happens, you
It
lose
grows
that.
into hate.
It does. Almost everybody I talk to uses the exact word hate. They hate them. And so makes a great opportunity for someone coming into that business. So
A
anyway,
It's
lot of
also
people did very well during the early CLEC days doing the same
yes,
thing, and it's a very, and look, phone service, you talk over whichever interface we happen to be operating. If we're operating in Slack, we'll throw a Slack huddle up. If we're in WhatsApp, we're going to do WhatsApp. It's all baseline internet. That's really all you need, and it's super smart, super smart. Good
that
for you. Hey,
that
for a
internet
sales guy, pretty good.
that internet service has been one of the biggest recruitments for Amish communities. People just have given up and put on a bonnet and said, "Forget it." Um, there's your first marketing campaign, Dave.
can't
You're welcome,
respond to
buddy.
that.
Yeah, you're welcome. But being, all those years had you been the chief marketing officer for Comcast, and obviously that's a lot of years of hearing these pain points. How do you, in terms of brand identity for Zuma, how do you anticipate creating this brand identity that will encompass this new era of internet service providers?
Well, it's really it was very scientific. I basically did a bunch of research and said, here is exactly how 100 different internet companies show up in front of the consumer, and all I have to do is the exact opposite of what they're doing, and I'll probably have a decent chance of succeeding. And I say that a little bit jokingly and a little bit not. I did look at 100 different websites of different internet providers, and their websites are almost exactly the same, and they're very institutional and corporate looking. Some better than others, but what I am trying to do is change it completely. So one, it's more modern. I'll talk about how that happens. But two, even though I may not be in the town that the customer is in, I want to appear as very approachable as a CEO and neighborly. I want to make this a local feel, and you can do that with technology today. And so I am I have built an avatar that is kind of front and center of who we are, which is the CEO, which you can get 24/7. And when you go to order service from us on the web, you will see my avatar and be able to speak to me while you're ordering service and watch the order actually going in. I can do it for you. You can do it for yourself. If you have a problem, you start talking to me. So it's just a very much a personal conversation rather than something that feels very sterile and corporate. And so I'm really trying to change that through technology.
Yeah, and I think because you're a man with that vision, you kind of see that a lot of times, like breaking down this giant monolithic corporation into, the founder, and here I am, and this entire company is built on basically what you've complained about over the years and fixing that. And it would also seem that, like, one of the trends moving forward with all this new AI technology and the ability to really cater to a customer through technology. And even though they adopt these other monolithic brands, the consumer's not going to have the value on the other side. They're still probably being charged too much.
Yes.
Whereas it would sound that your pricing model, I'd imagine, is far more competitive than what's out there right now.
Yeah, we're going after that value segment. So affordability is super important. The other piece is predictability of the bill. People want to have a budget and they don't like surprises, and so having that price stay the same for life is really, really important. So we're building that into how we how we show up to take all of those pain points away from the customer.
Why do you think the broadband, over the years, why do you think the broadband industry has been so historically resistant to change and transparency and fairness? What is it unique about that industry?
It's interesting because people call the cable company a monopoly, and you can argue yes or no, but in periods of time, and if I think of the internet business from the early 2000s to 5 years ago, they were the only viable internet provider. And so when you're in that position, you're going to extract as much money as you possibly can out of your customer. And they did that. And now what they have is a customer that's and they also cut costs in a lot of other areas, which is great financially for them, but it eroded that brand trust. Now they have an embedded base of customers, and I say there's 50 million customers that are just dying to get away from the cable company that I want to go and serve. You have those 50 million customers that as soon as they're given a choice or the right choice, they're going to leave, and it is incredibly difficult for that cable company to react to that base. They can do it one at a time through retention. And in fact, I always laugh at this because they tout this. They say, we're using AI in our retention efforts. You're using AI to gouge customers as much as you possibly can before they will actually leave. That is
Yes.
your strategy.
Yes.
And,
They
and,
have a
and
churn model.
yeah, they have a churn model. And so how much can I extract from you? It's just the wrong way to be looking
Yep.
at it. And
Yep.
so, they have this embedded base of customers that there's no way they can afford to write that entire base down and reestablish the right product value equation. And so they're in a really, really difficult position right now.
Yeah, they have been circling the drain for so long, though, and somehow they still manage to claw their way out with whatever their fully depreciated assets are bringing in the cash flow.
Well, and there's some things that they do really well. I mean, the internet service. I talk about speed and reliability. With more competition, they've gotten faster. They've gotten more reliability. They've invested in that area. They invest in the customer experience. Unfortunately, they're just tangled in legacy systems and then just have this lack of trust and consideration from their base, and so they're just in a tough place right now, and they put themselves in that place. And I look at it as a lesson to any business owner: if there are customer pain points and you ignore them, and not only ignore them, but like blatantly ignore them, you're going to pay for it down the road at some point.
So I had not heard of these fiber companies that are sort of letting you right on top of their infrastructure to deliver services. Can you name a couple of them?
Sure. There's like I mentioned, there are municipal open access networks. They're called open access networks, and this has been going on for years in Europe and other countries. But there are municipal ones, and so the city of Superior, Wisconsin, for instance, has one. The city of Wilmer, Minnesota, is getting ready to start one. And you think about these towns of 10,000 homes. They want competition. They don't have any other choice other than the cable company today. And no one has made the investment to move in there from a fiber perspective. And so they're just stuck. And so they've decided we'll build our own network. But
Yep.
rather than managing the ISP, they're giving that to multiple ISPs so that the customer actually has choice, which I think is
That's
a
awesome.
fantastic thing. Yes. So there's municipal providers. There's also a number of kind of national open access providers that are building fiber today. Over the next couple of years, there's about 10 million homes that are being built, and they spread the range, kind of a range of different types of open access providers. For instance, there's some big ones. Gigapower is one. Tillman is another. They are basically building network for AT&T and T-Mobile. But they also are letting other carriers ride on their network. which
Kind of
kind of
like what
goes
Quest did in the early days.
probably so, yes.
Ride the light.
Yes. And so really important for me and why I went after that value segment. If I want to be able to coexist on a fiber network with an AT&T or a T-Mobile, I want to be going after a different segment because that open access provider is trying to maximize the usage on their network.
Yeah.
They don't want two companies that are competing. They want them both pulling customers from the cable company, basically. So there's those, and then there are companies like one in Utah called Utopia that's actually spread into California and some other markets that they're pretty established. They've got 20, 30 different ISPs riding on their network, and they're in a 250,000 homes right now in Utah and some other areas. So this is a new thing that's growing. It's like I said, it's one that people have, one that's been done in other markets, and we're a little unsure of what to do with it in the US. I happen to think that it is going to explode. I also think there's going to be I'll call them closed networks. Think of an AT&T or Verizon or someone like that, or think of these fiber overbuilders that are popping up in different markets. They're going to learn that if they pick the right people to be on their network with them, they can actually get wholesale revenue similar to the MVNO model on wireless, and you'll have the Mint Mobiles of the world start to pop up.
So let me ask you another tactical question. In terms of what you're trying to do, are you finding that you're getting the right technical interfaces from these fiber providers to enact your vision?
Yes, I think it's getting better all of the time. But yes, there are the APIs into their networks are there established, and people in different places. But yes, it's technically the components are all there.
Yeah, you know what? I really like the move sort of toward decentralization too. Like to me, it's good. It's the key to everything. We have got to break apart some of these giant things that aggregated everything they could eat, and now just our lumpy systems that are monoliths that aren't movable. And there's really no other answer but to have a decentralized way to deliver services, differentiation, and freedom of choice. So
Well, and I think it's brave companies like Zuma that are forcing this evolution because they're not, if they stay as they are, they'd love for things to stay the same. Charge too much and have bad service, but for a small but smart operation like Zuma, it's forcing the kind of evolution where obviously customers can benefit.
Yeah, and I love the open access model too, because I think of all of these fiber overbuilders that there's tons of private equity money going into building out networks into all of these different markets. But the fiber overbuilders that go into those markets, they're solving one big pain point: the speed and reliability of the network. They're putting in fiber, and people are leaving the cable company to go to them, but they're not necessarily fixing the pricing issue. Yes, they will have a $50, $60, $70 entry point, but it's going to go up and up and up. And they're not necessarily fixing the customer experience. They say they are. They'll say, yes, but we have local call centers, or our call centers are in America. But I say, why the hell do we have call centers? Who wants to
yeah,
call in? Fix the damn
yeah,
problem so you don't
yeah,
have to call in.
yeah. Well, and two, you could have, there's tons of great AI tools. If somebody wants to use them, we've built AI, voice booking for orthopedic appointments. So you're calling your physician Mondays and Tuesdays. They can't hit the call spikes because all the weekend warriors like us killed ourselves on the weekend. And then so they can't answer the phones anyway. They're going to some call center that can't answer the phones. And so now it just overflows to a natural language bot that says, hey, do a HIPAA compliant handshake. I know who you are. I know who your doctor is. Left arm or right arm. Here's an appointment slot on Tuesday or Thursday. Which one do you want? And that's perfect, right? You get a capable response. You have the the service provider can improve the performance of one thing, right? They don't have to improve the performance of 100 people in a call center.
Yeah.
And it just makes sense. It just
You
makes
know,
sense.
that this whole AI agent thing is just amazing to me. I actually sat down with an AI agent that had been trained on 60,000 documents from a cable company. And I talked to that AI agent for about 20 to 30 minutes, asking them all sorts of questions from sales to service to about the company, the leadership team, everything you could possibly imagine. And that AI agent was better than 90% of all of the agents that ever worked in my organization in the call centers before. And you could understand every single thing that they said. And I don't just mean that because of language barriers, even though they can speak every single language and they understand accents and things like that much better. But if you think about the virtual agents today that you call into and you hear the TV in the background and you hear the baby crying and the crackly headset that they have and they're not speaking into it, you could understand everything this AI agent was saying.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it's just that's a technology that is that's revolutionizing that call center experience.
100%.
So, Dave, I just got to ask you, this is from an outsider's point of view. I mean, this is a gargantuan effort. Why would you take this upon yourself to solve, which of course is a very important problem, but this is a lot. What is your driving engine? What is your main motivation for taking something of this size on?
Well, a couple of things. I'll say three things. One, from a customer perspective, they need someone to help them and solve those pain points. And so I saw it day in, day out. I want to do that work. But more from a personal perspective, I look at two things. One, I say, I feel like I'm getting, I'm getting a little older and more tenured in my career. So why the hell would I do something like this and spend this much effort? Um, I've got more game in me and I'm not ready to quit. And so this is a passion project for me. But the thing that really drives me, I loved my jobs my career and my work when I was at Comcast and at Altis. But the thing that was so difficult is I couldn't go into a grocery store with a badge that said Comcast or Altis. I could not go to a dinner party and say where I worked. And if I did, people would say, I hate that company. And and it's like psychologically disturbing. It like truly is to work at a place for 2.5 decades and have people say, I hate the place where you work. That had given me a lot. And so that really set me on this mission to create a brand that people love. And I want people that work at Zuma Internet to be proud when they walk down the streets and people say, I love your company. I love it. And so that's why I said, I've got to do this.
Well, that reminds me of going on a date years ago with a woman who worked for Ticketmaster, and she could look in my face. She's like, "Okay, I'm out of here." I had to like talk to her. But anyway, well, that is a very noble cause and obviously a great opportunity. I mean, I think your timing is amazing because we do have these technological advancements when it comes to customer service with the ability to work with other carriers and take on their infrastructure and things like that. And of course, without a doubt, the sheer mind numbing frustration that comes with historically our interactions with the internet companies. Dave, congratulations. I think there's a lot of vision there. Very excited to see what becomes of Zuma Internet. I'm sure it's going to be absolutely fantastic, and for people to keep Zuma Internet very much in their thoughts as this company becomes a reality. And congratulations to you.
Well, thanks so much. And I appreciate the time, Dave and Grace. It's been a great conversation. And
Likewise.
yeah, I look forward to keeping in touch.
All right.
Awesome.
Be
Thank you,
good.
Dave. Thank you, Grace, for joining, and thanks for everyone for watching. Thanks so much. Take care.
Right.
Bye bye. Okay.
How was that?
That was fantastic, Dave, and I really mean everything I say. I think this is very exciting stuff, and I think you've really nailed a very special time and place with what you're doing. It's going to be great stuff, I think.
Well, I need to get off my ass and raise some fucking money so I can get this thing done. Please take that
Yeah,
off the recording.
yeah, yeah. Well, we'll start the show with that. But
Yeah,
my God,
exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
That's gonna be our little hook video. Like this man means business.
That's right.
But that is what it comes down to. But I think I'm not sure how things have been going so far, but I think there's some very compelling arguments that I think it's just a matter of time. So
It's
please.
to me, it's the first time in my life. I've had lots of ideas in the past, but the first time in my life when the timing just felt perfect to do this, and so I love it.